Well, hello and welcome to the Pivot Table, brought to you by Women Lead TV and Connected Women of Influence. I am Jamie Lynn Kiles, your host for today, and I'm super excited that you are here and spending time with us during your lunch hour. And I'm even more excited to welcome our honored guest, Miss Analia Mendez. Hello.
Hi, how are you? It's so great to see you, first of all, and great to just be here.
Right. And I'm glad you're here. I have not seen you in forever, and I can't wait till we get together again, but that's another conversation. Analia is one of my dear friends, as well as the owner and CEO of Signature Careers. I want to just kind of give you a shout out and toot your horn a little bit. I've got a brief bio on you here and just kind of give our viewers an idea of who you are and what all you have accomplished. So, Miss Mendez has over 23 years of career and workforce development experience for teams around strengths, employee engagement, professional development. You've impacted thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by designing large scale initiatives and sustainable education programs. Some of your clients have been, or you've worked with the UC San Diego and Savannah College of Art and Design. You've been a featured speaker at the U.S. News STEM Solutions Workforce of Tomorrow, Univision, and the National Association of colleges and employers. A few more of your clients that you have served include the California Department of Public Health in partnership with 34 Strong and Ivory Bridges Foundation. Girl, what a mouthful. And let me also say that you have been featured in Education 2.0 Conference, international conference featured panelist. You also have been featured in Women Lead Magazine, CEO Today Magazine, and a Connected Women of Influence Award recipient. Yay! Oh my goodness. I am super honored to have you today. Just wanted to give everybody an idea of who we are dealing with. So, the pivot table is really a space where we celebrate women who have not only leaned into the obstacles and challenges of life, but have used them and seized the opportunity to really pivot in a new direction and live a life they never thought possible. So I want to hear, and I know our viewers want to hear your story and just learn a little bit more about who is Analia.
Thank you, thank you. Well, starting back, I mean, I am a daughter of immigrants. My parents are from Mexico, and so I was born into a huge family of seven, five women, two men, and of course, I feel like
Wow.
men sometimes. They're outnumbered for sure. But we grew up very humble, beginnings. I grew up in the Modesto, California area. It's smaller than that, Riverbank, where I lived and grew. But the reality is, in the area where we lived, there weren't a lot of career options. So the career options were you can work at a cannery and become a manager,
Oh, wow.
um, and you can work in the fields. That's another thing that was, definitely an option. But the reality is, I knew there was more for me. I knew that there was more than those two options, and I didn't have a lot of mentors. Of course, my parents did what they could. They worked, very humbly in both of those industries, in the field, in the fields, and also in working in factories. So I completely and truly feel like, wow, I can never do that. I don't know how they did it so long, but I
Yeah.
can never do that. I wouldn't last a day. Okay. So,
Me neither.
let alone an hour doing what they used to do for many, many years. But it really did inspire me to think, what else can I do? And so at a very young age of 17, I went off to Sacramento State and I began my college career. But needless to say, that as a Latina, that's not in those days, it wasn't seen as something that you should do or can do. It was something, it was a big no no. Either you left the home married or nothing at all.
Wow.
So at the time, I was a little bit defiant, and I had told my mom, like, hey, I need to find out what else there is out there. I can't just be here. I know there's more for me. So She said, "You're not going to college." When I got accepted, and I said, "I'm going to college," and we went back and
Wow.
forth a few times,
Mhm.
and I packed up, and they dropped me off at Sacramento State.
Wow, and how was that for you?
It was just amazing, but exhilarating, sad at the same time. But I knew that I could do it. And
Mm,
long story short, I ended up graduating with a degree in psychology and a master's in counseling, eventually transferring to San Francisco State, where I started my career as a college counselor and worked for San Francisco State, City College of San Francisco, and many other universities. And I jokingly say part of that was me. I got promoted and moved around some. And then towards the end of, towards, I don't want to say the end of my higher educational career, but I did meet my husband where I ended up moving around the country. Therefore, that's why you see all the military
yeah.
awards in the back. My husband is a retired military veteran, but it was a struggle for sure because there were obstacles along the way. Um, and now I am the founder of Signature Careers. And
Wow, that is just amazing. And your parents, what do they think about that now that you've gone through college and that great career and just decorated resume that you have? What is that like for them?
well, they're so proud. Every time I
Yeah.
send them a copy of an article or an award or a magazine copy, they're just so proud. And they obviously don't regret that they dropped me off in front of this university that they had no idea. Oh, here's my 17-year-old Latina, single Latina.
Yeah.
And so they're so proud. And they say
Yeah.
that every single time. And every time they say that, it just chokes me up, you know?
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine. So what do you think the moment was, let's say as a young woman really going off to college, what do you think really pivoted that direction for you? I know there's two directions I want to talk about. One being a CEO and founder of your own business, right? And having that, but also, just that moment where you went off to college where it was really defying all the ideals that your family had for you. What do you think really pushed you to do that?
Well, I just really felt that there was something else, and I needed to find that something
Mm,
else. And granted, my parents didn't have money to take me to college, so it was like financial aid and scholarships, and then
yeah.
at one point, I just had to work for myself. So I worked the majority of the time I went to college. I worked and went to school to support the tuition, what it takes to be a college student, tuition and books and things of that nature. Um, but a little secret is that everyone's going to find out is that I almost flunked out of college
Oh, wow.
the first 2 years.
No
Just had,
wonder we're such good friends. Me too.
oh my goodness. Well, I didn't know that, but now I know.
Yeah.
And I- like I'm not ashamed to say it because I think people need to understand that it's not all smooth sailing. It's not like, oh, I got to
Right.
college and it was this smooth sailing the rest of the way. I almost flunked that. Yeah, I did. First generation student. I
Yes.
didn't know what I was doing. I was having way too much fun. That's the truth. It was a
Yeah.
blast. But then the day my counselor calls me in and says, "Hey, Annalie, I got to talk to you. If you don't straighten up, you're getting kicked out of college." And I was like, "Uh
Wow.
oh, I'm not
Yeah.
going. I'm not going back. I'm not going back to Modesto." So
Yeah.
it really pushed me. Like it's either sink or swim, and I'm swimming and I'm pedaling hard.
Yeah, right.
So
Did you have a vision for yourself, as you were going through college of what your life would look like? And did that turn out anything like it is today?
absolutely. I think we dream about this, having the husband, having the family, and a beautiful home and a career, and being, prosperous in the things that you do. So those were things that I definitely dreamt about. The other thing is outside of my parents, I didn't have any other like a mentor. So I would
Mm.
watch telenovelas, which are Spanish soap operas. And if you've ever watched a clip of one, they hook you right away. But in the telenovelas, you see like the handsome husband, the family, the beautiful home on the hill and the cars. And the reality is that's what I dreamt about. And
Wow.
so I knew that it was possible, even though I saw it on TV. and I decided to go for it. And that was part of the motivation. But the other part is my mother, regardless of her financial situation in my family's, she was always so giving. And
Really?
yes, I mean, she would literally take the shirt off her back to give it to someone who needs it more. And
Wow.
so that was an inspiration and how hard both my parents worked. And so I knew that I needed to give back to our community. So that's why I chose a serving profession, which is the coaching, counseling, in the psychology, and got my master's in counseling. So it's just something that I knew I needed to do. I needed to give back everything that I got to the people who needed it the most.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. What an amazing story there. So let me ask you, what really pushed you to move from, because I know you haven't always worked for yourself, right? So what brought that transition about? What was it that pushed you to go in that direction, or what pivotal moment happened? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. My husband being military in the U.S. Marine Corps for 21 years, towards the end of his career, he was, deciding, well, what should we do and what should I do as I get ready to retire? And I noticed that a lot of his colleagues, service members, needed help with transitioning. And so that's when I found his Signature Careers. And at the time we were living in Palm Springs area. And if anyone knows anything about the military, we were stationed at 29 Palms. And it's not the most lively place to be, frankly, unless you go down the hill. But nonetheless, that's besides the point, right? Nonetheless, I said, I really think our service members need help. And I began helping service members transition, helping them with their resumes. And then I consider myself a futurist. And I said, one day I'm going to retire out of higher education and run my business full time. But what happened was that the pandemic happened, and
Oh, oops. Yep.
it just it was time to really analyze where I was in my career
Yeah.
and what I needed to do to pivot, because I had pretty much reached the top of the echelon with higher education. And frankly, there were other steps I can go into, other positions, but I didn't want to.
Mm.
So after we were stationed in 29 Palms, we moved to San Diego, and I landed a position at UC San Diego. And I eventually became the director of career education and advising, where I ran very large scale programs, and I helped establish some pre-med programs and other programs for the students on campus and also for the alumni. But again, I think, reached the top, that glass ceiling. I didn't want to go anywhere else without compromising my family and
Mm.
their well-being and my well-being.
Wow.
So that's when I said, I'm home as a director of a massive university, and I'm teaching my children. Granted, they're learning Mandarin. I'm trying to, which I don't know how to speak Mandarin.
Wow.
And they were small at the time. I think they were 6 and 7, 6 and 8. And I'm running, my business. I'm a director, and I'm home with the 2 kids, and everyone's home. I just decided it's not for me anymore. I need.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's the case with so many moms,
Mhm.
right? So you get to a point where you're just not willing to sacrifice your health and your family. So I can totally do you think that's where the courage came from for you to really step out and start your own business? Was that the main?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I knew that, okay, I had Signature Careers, and I had been, I guess you could say, in business, we call it dabbling. You don't want to
Right.
dabble, you want to go in all in. And so I said, I'm going all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back,
And when you say all in, what do you mean by that?
great question. I resigned from my position in
Yeah.
San Diego. So in 2021, it was New Year's, and I said, I think this is it. I have to make the shift. It's time
Yeah.
to move.
So quickly, just tell us what that was like. Like what, so because I think a lot of people, women especially, we get really, encouraged and motivated to do it, then we take the step, we take the leap, and then we get into it and it becomes so overwhelming, right? There's so much opportunity because you are your own boss, right? And so it becomes really overwhelming. So what was that like for you? I know it was like that for me.
It was definitely terrifying because I'm losing a big chunk of money. I mean, they pay
Yeah.
pretty decent and all the benefits and everything that comes along with that. But I knew that I could do it. So it was terrifying, but I said, this is it. I don't feel like if I go back full time, it's the right place to be. I didn't feel myself anymore. I didn't feel like I was living my true mission for my life and for others.
Mhm.
And I know that I'm in the serving profession because there were more people that I needed to serve during COVID. And so I wanted to break out of the university walls. They're not walls, but obviously,
Right.
what I was working in. And I felt this is it. And it's going back to the sink or swim.
Yeah.
And I listened to a lot of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and they say, you're going to burn the boats. And that's what I
You have
did.
to.
No going
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, you have to, because then you won't be all in unless that happens, unless you do it. Yeah. So when you say that, you felt like you weren't your true self or living your best life, what were just a few of the things that, because I know there's so many of us that have those feelings and thoughts, that are in the corporate environment and that know that we can do things differently, live a different life. And we have those feelings and we can do so much more. How did you know that? What were some of the, I guess, triggers or, things that occurred that you were like, okay, I know this is not right.
I think part of it is that when people are transitioning, especially if you've been mid-career, and if you don't understand that if your mission as a person and your values don't match with the that of the organization, you're in the
Mhm.
wrong place. And so many times what I see career transitioners, including myself, because I lived it, is you try to change the organization, but that's not going to happen. That's just not possible. The organization is going to create their mission and vision, and if it doesn't match yours anymore, it's time for you to go.
Right,
And
right.
people don't want
Yeah.
to hear that. They don't want to
Well,
hear
and I
that.
think, yeah, and I think that, women especially, we get so much fulfillment out of our career and workplace, and we put so much into it that I think a lot of times the expectations for those feelings to be reciprocated from a corporate environment become too much, right? It is a job after all. And
Yeah.
then when you become your own, I don't know if you feel this way, but when you become the boss, you are the success, you are the make or break, then it's totally different because everything you're putting in, that it's you and you get that back. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The moment that it was very hard. I remember writing the resignation letter, and it was
Yeah.
hard. I knew that I had to do this, and that was still very difficult for me to do. But the moment I turned it in, it was like this weight that lifted off of me and this new energy that came back into my life. And it's funny because I see my colleagues from UC San Diego and other universities, and they say, what have you done differently? You look different. You look good. Not that
Yeah.
you did it before, but you just look like you have this new energy. And I said,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm living my best life. And
That's
so that's
awesome.
what you get back.
I love that. I love that so much. And we know you're living your best life. I see it. We see it on your social. I see it when I talk to you. And I know that I've experienced your coaching before. You were my Sue Talks coach.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know what a Sue Talks is, it's kind of like a TED Talks, but more empowerment, female empowerment. It's very encouraging. It was a great experience to work with you. I know that you helped me a great deal. We became great friends as a result of that. So I still appreciate that so much. But I also want to kind of ask you, just real quickly as we wrap up. I know that you do a lot of strengths training.
Mhm.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that and what your typical day looks like, and then we'll close out with a few more things.
Absolutely. So I do work with some pretty large organizations, as you mentioned before, 34 strong. They're strength based. I am a Clifton Strength certified coach. And we go in and we help people and teams work better together, to put it very simple. The other thing that I do is I take on private clients and I help mid-career to late career transitioners transition smoothly, whether it's retirement to doing something a little bit more, less responsibility or funner for them.
Hmm.
Those are some of the things that I do. And
Okay.
then the other thing is just making sure that as I'm working with people, that they are getting the results that they seek and need and want. So I always say, I haven't lost one yet, whether it's a team or an individual, but that's the type of work that I do.
Great. Okay. Well, that gives us a really good idea of what it is that you do and what your day looks like. So, can you also tell us what advice would you give for those of us that are considering transitioning into coaching? Maybe we're unsure, or it doesn't even have to be coaching, really, even though that's what we do. Just starting their own business and starting something new. What advice could you leave our viewers, or maybe a nugget of wisdom?
I always say, and whether it's career transition or you're wanting to start your own business,
Uh huh.
if you're hitting that brick wall and it's not giving you what you want, in other words, you've tried to make things work at work, you've tried to, it's kind of like the square peg and the round ball, like you're trying to make it fit, it's just not fitting. If you're doing that over and over again, it's time to transition. You just have to,
Absolutely.
and I call it the leap of faith.
Yeah,
Regardless of what happens, you're going to accept the responsibilities. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if you're dedicated, you're going to reach your goals. And the other thing is, if you're wanting to become a coach or an entrepreneur, make sure financially you have some money saved up, because it's not going to be smooth transitioning at first. Okay. But I remember even as I was transitioning, there was doubt in my mind. Can I actually make up the money that I gave up? Am I able to surpass that? And the answer was yes. And I
mhm,
didn't give up. Even when no one, has or belief in you, you have to believe yourself. And then
absolutely,
the last thing is you need to connect with a higher power.
absolutely,
Faith, God, whoever that, whatever that is to you, you have to connect. And I feel like more and more that's something that I need to talk to people about, because I see a lot of people in general falling into deep depressions, anxiety, stress, and things of that nature. So that is the recipe for success.
absolutely. I fully agree, fully agree. Well, you know what, Analia, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and bless us with your wisdom and your wonderful attitude, and just your presence is just awesome. And we just love it. I just love it every time I get to talk to you. So, again, we thank you. And again, I thank the viewers for taking the time to listen to us today and be a part of the show. And we will hopefully we'll do this again. And I just appreciate everyone for coming on here. And thank you again, Analia. We appreciate you. Have a good day, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.